I heard someone the other day say that the cost of community is inconvenience. And I have so many thoughts on this. So I wanted to talk about it because I think that, yes, having community can necessitate you being inconvenienced to show up for people, to be a villager, to show up and give of yourself. But I also think that having it be labeled as an inconvenience is really missing the point a little bit. Because when did the point become for everything to be convenient for you? Truly, when did that become the point? Because if being a true villager, if showing up for other people really is inconvenient to you, then you're still the subject of that. You're still in the middle of that. And when you show up for other people, you should not be the one that you're thinking about in terms of this is inconveniencing me. No, I'm doing this for someone else. They're the one who my attention is on. Does that make sense? And I think that that way of thinking really helps, honestly, put a lot of things into perspective in terms of where we're at in a culture today, where a lot of thought processes come from, because we are so self-centered in our culture these days. And it really is wild to see, because humans are supposed to be communal, right? We are not supposed to be self-centered all the time. And there are some things that we need to be aware of on a very human basic level, like our safety needs to be met before we can think about others. We have to have enough food on the table. We have to have a safe place to stay, and sleeping enough, things like that. That's all really important. But once those basic needs are met, it should not be all about us. And that is a hill I will die on, because we are communal creatures. And when we isolate ourselves from everyone and we only think about what it is that we want, if we only think, what is it in our best interest, then you're going to lose a lot of people and you're going to isolate yourself. And that is not in your best interest because we're communal. We need other people. We want other people. We want to have an abundant life, do we not? We want it to be full, and we want it to be full of good things. Of course, everyone wants that. But in order to have a full life full of good things, it needs to be full with other people, experiences, places, memories, adventures with other people. How we show up for other people is a huge part of that. Because at the end of the day, we want people to show up for us. Yes, if we're having a hard time, if we're having a good time, we want people to show up for us. And I think that everyone at the end of the day has the same need to be seen, known, and loved. It's a desire that we have. We all have that. And we want to be considered. We want to be pursued. We want to, in a sense, be inconvenienced for. We want to be someone that people show up for, right? We want to experience that. And if that can be a gift that you give to someone else, why wouldn't you want to do that? Why isn't it that your first perspective instead of this costs me something? Yeah, of course it costs you something, but you're not the point. The point is the other person. The point is that this is the community that we're building. And one of the things that this is big on is perspective. Perspective is huge in this, right? Is it about me or is it about them? Is it about the whole? Is it about someone else? Is it about doing the thing for someone else, or is it doing it for me? Again, in our culture, we have another element of this that comes into play, because in a lot of social media, a lot of here on YouTube, a lot of different things that are done for good, nice things are also done performatively for recognition in doing the good thing. I see it all the time. I know you see it all the time. And we can think, okay, well, if that is why we're doing it, that is still self-centered, right? That is still, okay, for views, for clicks, for making yourself feel good, right? A little bit of like a savior complex, right? But that also is missing the mark, because at the end of the day, if you're doing good things only for recognition of doing the good thing, is it really a good thing? Is it really the goal of making the other person feel seen? Is that really being accomplished? Or are you only accomplishing the goal of making yourself feel better for doing something nice for someone else? It's a really honest question, and it all comes down to perspective. It comes down to perspective of whether or not it's something selfish, whether or not it's something for the other person. And guess what? Your perspective is 100% inside of your control. And I can say that because I know that to be true on so many levels. On a psychological level, an emotional level, on a mental level, on an experiential level. It is all in your control. Now, different things can impact what your perspective may be. You may have had past experiences. You may have been brought up in a certain environment. And everyone has those elements which creates their perspective. But at the end of the day, it is also your mindset that decides this is the perspective I'm going to go with. Which means if you show up with a perspective that you're not really all that proud of, you have the control to stop and say, hey, I'm not really proud of this perspective. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, you know what? We're going to buck up here, and we are going to change this perspective, because that is inside of your control. Sometimes that's the way it's going to change. It's not always going to be, okay, I'm approaching the situation. What is the perspective I want to have? Sometimes that's the case, but a lot of times we fail. We do something, we show up with the wrong perspective, and we realize, ooh, I didn't want that. And so then you look at it and you say, okay, what can I do better next time? What can I change? That is not proof that you're failing. That is literally proof that you're growing. That is proof that you are saying, hey, this matters. And I'm not really willing for my perspective to get the better of me again in the future. So we're going to be prepared for the next thing so that we can show up better. And that is, again, like I said, inside of your control. And I say all of this to say that the way that we show up for other people, as nuanced as it is, whether we see it as an inconvenience for ourselves, or if we see it as a gift for the other person, or if we're truly they're the only thing that matters in that situation, it all comes down to perspective, and it matters. It matters because the posture of your heart and the way that you show up is nuanced, and it always has been and it always will be. But that nuance is important, because your intention and the way that you show up, first of all, is going to look different. It's going to actually manifest differently. Whether, it's with pure intentions or not pure intentions, it's going to show up. It's going to have an external effect, but it also has an internal effect. And that internal effect impacts the person you're becoming. It impacts your life here on earth. It also impacts eternity. And we live in an age where Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I think, comes after them. They have this catchphrase that they say all the time, and they say it's just not that deep. Well, I'm here to say it is that deep, because these perspectives that we have, like it or not, have an eternal component, because we cannot separate just one decision, just one perspective from our lives. It's all part of it, right? And yes, we can make mistakes, and we can grow, and we can change, and we can course correct, but it all matters because it's all part of your story. If you've ever read a book, right, a storybook, there might be a little random detail here. There might be a little side quest here that might not matter too much to the whole storyline, but it's part of it. And in fact, the best storylines are when there are these little things that you're like, ooh, I don't know if I agreed with the main character in that position. That's not the decision I would have made. Because at the end of the day, the best stories are not the ones we agree upon all the time. It's the ones that make us think, it's the ones that make us really empathize with the characters because they're human and because they make mistakes. Um, it would be so boring to read a book about someone who was perfect, right? Who made every single right decision, that nothing ever bad happened to them, that they handled everything perfectly. It would be a boring story if we're being honest. What makes a story interesting is being able to empathize with the character, to see the humanity in them, to see, oh, this is where they went wrong, and oh, I saw that from a mile away. Why would you choose that, right? We've all had that experience. And so when you look at your life like a story, like a movie, like a book, right? And you're like, ooh, this went off the rails here in this chapter. Try not to get too hard on yourself and think that, oh, that throughout the whole book, it's not worth it. I guarantee you it is worth it to keep going. That perspective that you gained through that chapter that kind of went off the rails is going to be helpful in the future, and not to write off your whole story, because that's not doing anyone any favors, especially not you, especially not the co-creator of your life, God, who created you. It's not helping. So all this to say, your perspective really matters, and community is essential. It's great. If it requires giving of yourself, because it will, show up. Show up for others, show up for yourself in these situations, show up for your own story, because it's worth it, because you're worth it, and you've got this. I'm cheering for you.